a tragedy, a crisis, blanketed in suffering. Homelessness has not improved. We're all waiting for the time and point count to come out. The last time in 2022, it had surged 67%. A lot of my information is anecdotal. However, we don't see evidence of $57 million on the streets.
Sacramento has been struggling with homelessness for decades, and people who live here know this problem all too well. From seeing villages of homeless encampments lining the streets to seeing individuals passed out on the sidewalks. Though despite the millions of dollars spent on tackling this issue, the problem has only gotten worse. From 2019 to 2021, Sacramento was given $191 million to address homelessness. But in the same time period, Sacramento's unhoused population increased from 5,700 people to 9,300. This shows a major discrepancy in translating funds to action, which just isn't right, because thousands of people on the streets are waiting for serious action to be taken. But it's time to start doing something, and this is why I'm building a sustainable low-cost home for the unhoused, which I envision can be the start of tackling this long-standing humanitarian crisis. So, obviously, the incredibly high costs of housing in Sacramento is one of the driving forces behind homelessness. But building those tiny homes for the unhoused costs around $20,000 to make. As a result, Sacramento can only afford to build 175 homes when there's 9,300 unhoused people. This is why I'm making a housing solution that only costs a fraction of the price, which would allow for more homes to be made. Let's dive into this. The house is mainly made out of materials found in nature, which significantly cuts down the costs. The walls will be made with cob, which is a mixture of clay, straw, and sand, and the frames will be made from metal mesh, which is where the layer of cob will be put upon. The floors will be panels of wood, and the entire house will sit on a flatbed trailer, which allows people to be able to move, especially when they are often asked to relocate by the police and other authorities. But hopefully one day, they'll be able to settle down with it permanently, never having to move again. But before I started building the house, I actually wanted to spend some time gaining experience in what it really meant to help unhoused communities. So, at the beginning of January, I began looking for an organization specifically aimed towards helping people experiencing homelessness. And finding one was actually pretty hard because, to my surprise, a lot of them had an 18-year-old age requirement I had to meet, but maybe that was just the case back then. But fortunately, in one moment and then the next, I discovered Midtown Church, which led me to find Be Encouraged, Inc. Be Encouraged, Inc. is a small nonprofit that provides for its unhoused communities and works closely with Midtown Church. And immediately when I visited their website, I just knew that this was the organization I wanted to be a part of. The first volunteering job I did was donating 30 lunch bags. In a lunch bag, there's a snack, a fruit, a drink, and a sandwich. Here's me preparing the sandwiches, and when I drove to Midtown Church to drop them off, I met Dawn, who was someone I became very close to later on. Then, on the following Saturday, I attended their Outreach Ambassador program, where Dawn introduced me to Tara, Be Encouraged, Inc.'s executive director. And when I came to the meeting, I brought a physical proposal of my housing project and explained to Tara and Dawn my housing solution. This is when I formed a partnership with Be Encouraged Inc. for my project, and up until March, I would try to get to know them better by attending more events such as lunch packing parties. After gaining a lot of experience helping undeserved communities, on April 15, my dad and I started prepping to build the house. We ordered a box of maker pipes which would connect the structures of the house. And at 12 p.m., we went to Home Depot to shop all of the materials and bought 20 10-foot metal tubes and 2 rolls of metal mesh. At 8 p.m., we went to my dad's friend's house to get the trailer base. The next day, we went to Harbor Freight Tools to buy a 100-watt solar panel, a solar charge regulator, and a 35-amp battery. This would be for creating the power system of the house. On May 1st, my dad and I went to UC Davis Craft Center and bought around 30 to 40 pounds of clay, which is for the walls of the house, and the clay was incredibly cheap. each bag was only $4, and this is us carrying them to the car, to which we actually didn't think this part through because it was so heavy, and initially we were going to buy 5 bags of clay in total, but we ended up just buying 3 because that's all we could manage to carry. On May 10, we finally started building the house. We cut the pipes to length and started building the metal frame. We started putting down the metal screen mesh as well and used zip ties to secure it to the pipes. The next day, we did a little bit more shopping and went to Home Depot to buy panels of wood for the floor. And when we came back home, I started cutting the pipes and we continued building the frame of the house. On May 18th, we went ham and worked for 11.5 hours straight. The plan was to get the house done because we were presenting it to Tara, the director of Be Encouraged, in 2 days. At 12:15 p.m., I started working, and then here's me getting into a little accident.
Ow.
It was a small scratch, but if you guys didn't know, I get really nauseous and faint when I see my own blood. So, yeah.
Hi. Well, I'm back. Yeah, so got into a little accident over there. Like, it wasn't too bad. It was like a very superficial, like, scratch from the metal wires and jumping back at me. But we're not letting that happen again. And here's me with my new outfit, face shield, full long sleeves, so it doesn't happen again. So yeah.
Later, my dad joined me and we managed to grab my sister to help. A huge thank you to my family for helping me out so much with this house. They've played such a big role, and this project is as much theirs as it is mine. Here's us finishing up the frame, putting mesh on the corners. At 10:17 p.m., we put tarp on the house, and tomorrow I would paint it brown to simulate cob. This would give the finished look of what my housing solution would look like, because it's not feasible to create that much cob and plaster it on the walls in a few days. Cob is a very intensive process. With only manual labor, just a small batch of it takes 12 hours. This is why only the corners of the house would be covered with it, because only that much could be made. The following day, I painted the tarp light brown to simulate the cob, which ended up being a pretty good color match.
Hi guys! So, all done with the paint job, and now on to cob making. We are finally done! So we have the front 2 sides covered with clay, and then the paint actually matched with the clay pretty well. That took such a long time to do it. Thank you to my mom and my sister for helping me with making the cob. We'll be presenting, and I can't wait to see their reactions.
So today is presenting day and also interview day. Super exciting. Here's my dad tying the house down, and we added carpet on the floor as a final touch. Note, just so you know, there's supposed to be a wooden wall at the back, but we weren't able to get that done. There was also supposed to be a solar panel at the top, but we couldn't mount it securely, and it would have simply flown off while we were on the road. So we left that at home. And when I presented it to my mentor and her colleagues, I mentioned these discrepancies. Overall, it ended up being a success. They were really touched with my project, and it was really sweet of them to commend me. Once I finished presenting, it was time for the interview.
What are your thoughts on Sacramento's progress so far in tackling homelessness, and how effectively do you think they are investing the money?
Well, clearly they're not being effective because nothing's happening. So that's a really good question. Our nonprofit, Be Encouraged, Inc., we're faith-based, and we try to stay out of the political arena, but as a person, I'll tell you that there's no proof of $57 million being spent anywhere. The people we serve, we've served over 2 years now, the same humans. The politicians are afraid because of NIMBY. They don't want to build shelters. They want it to be perfect, so no one's mad at them. I've talked to assembly members, I've talked to city council, and they say, we want to do something, and yes, we do have the money, but it has to be perfect, or else it won't get done, and nothing's going to be perfect.
What advice would you give to someone looking to make a difference in the fight of improving our crisis?
Yeah. I think our issues are going to be solved on a practical and spiritual level. So that was my first impression, was this is a mess. Like, this is, and it's way worse than I ever imagined. And then the suffering. I don't think people put the suffering on it. No one woke up and said, I want to be addicted to fentanyl. It happens. No one said, no one wants to be bipolar or schizophrenic. But it happens. And there's nothing, no one seems to be doing anything, and then we blame them. It's just, it's a mess. So I was overwhelmed by the mess and understanding very clearly what it means to be a believer and our role in culture, in society, in this city. If the government's not going to do it, we're going to do whatever we can.
What do you think about my project in addressing homelessness? What kind of impact do you think my project could have?
I think that you are the future of the world. I think the fact that you woke up one morning and said, I'm going to do this, I have a heart for this, is incredible. It gives me goosebumps. Like, I'm trying not to cry. To see the thought, and obviously you're intelligent, but the heart stuff that goes into it is so impressive to me. I think we need solutions, and I think we need creativity, and we know it can be done. We have money available to us if we had land. We could build a tiny home village, right? What if by chance they would accept your greenhouse on the river? That would be huge. It would be huge. There's third world conditions in our city, no running water, no sanitation, and then, you know, no reliable sources of trash, anything. So having a little bit of shelter and safety, especially for the elderly people, would be huge. I think that your project is amazing. I think anything that works as a positive solution towards a positive experience that can alleviate suffering is A1. I will find you the money to build more. We believe humans should be inside in a house. We want that. We want shelter. So our organization is always looking to partner with people who are at that level of, we have this idea, where can we do a test project? So we would love to be part of stuff, you know, anything that's moving in a positive direction rather than, you know, complaining about it.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you. Your heart is amazing.
Thank you so much.
And good job, Mom and Dad. You're incredible.
Whew. Oh my gosh. So that project, that really was a big undertaking. And I think a difficulty was how much physical labor it demanded, because you need a lot of strength to, I think, straighten the metal and make the cob, because that's a very intensive process. It took all of my other family members to work on it as well, and they made it possible that I can finish my project in time, and that my project, the finished look, looks somewhat like I imagined in my proposal. And yeah, it really means a lot to me that I got to do this project, because I've always really cared about this issue. I've always wanted to help our unhoused communities, because every time I pass by them, I always put myself in their shoes. And especially like living in the Philippines, there were impoverished communities everywhere, but there was always a very supportive community that you would help each other out. And I just didn't see that exact same support system here in the US. And so it really means a lot to me, because this is the first big step I've taken to helping these communities. And it's been really nice, because I found my own community of like-minded people, and I am going into college with a major that is that's public policy, because when I come here to Sacramento, I want to be one of the people who will champion for better laws for the unhoused that meets their needs, and take more vigorous action in that area, especially in translating funds to things like transitional housing, more wraparound services after getting into housing, things like that. But yeah. My plans for this house is showing it to more organizations and people, and I don't know, maybe potentially be able to get it funded. But yeah.